How do you make a sourdough loaf from start to finish? Hi, I'm Mary and today I'm making 2 loaves of bread in my home kitchen. First I'm milling some wheat berries. Of course you can skip this step and just use wholemeal flour, but I love the extra flavour from fresh flour. And I love watching the little berries go through the funnel. Then I add 160 grams of starter. Using mine straight from the fridge and it always works out just fine even though you're not supposed to do that. And then 16 grams of salt and 600 grams of water. Mixing it all in until it's kind of milky looking. It doesn't have to be completely dissolved. Now I'm adding a total of 800 grams of flour. I'm using 400 grams of fresh flour and 400 grams of white flour, but you could use all white flour and it would be just fine. And I'm mixing it until it forms what I call a shaggy dough. Okay, now I'm going a little bit rogue and adding some extra water to see what difference it makes to the dough. I wonder what it's going to do. You can see that the dough has kind of lost its structure, but we can do some extra folds while it's developing to help the structure to come back. So we're going to leave it just to sit for about half an hour. Okay, it's been half an hour and here's the dough. You can see it's still super sticky, but that's okay. We'll give it some more folds. And now it's been 1.5 hours and the dough's still kind of liquidy, so I'm going to do a slap and fold. It's a special folding technique. It's quite fun using this folding technique and it helps to make the dough stronger. You just slap the dough onto the counter and then fold it in over itself. It makes a funny slapping sound. And you can see it's really helping the dough to come together. Now I'm going to leave it for another hour. Next I'm folding it again and it's getting smoother. And it's been 2 hours and I'm giving it another fold. So in total it's been about 7 hours since I first mixed the dough. I'm going to shape it into 2 loaves. People always want signs for how to know when the dough is ready, but really I don't look for specific signs. I just think about what the temperature is and what the time is and sort of make an educated guess. I like to use this little shaping technique. It's a little bit complicated and it took me a while to be able to remember it, but it helps to build tension in the dough, which helps it to rise and make a really pretty looking loaf. I'm just rolling it up one extra time because it was kind of spreading out. I'm coating the loaf with rice flour and I use rice flour because it's not as sticky as normal flour. And then I'm stitching it together when it's in the bread basket. And this helps build even more tension to help it rise even more when you bake it. And I always give my loaves a little pat. Okay, so they're going into the fridge overnight. Now it's tomorrow and I'm baking the bread. It's been 16 hours in the fridge. My oven's been preheating at 240 degrees with 2 of my Dutch ovens inside for about 45 minutes. I'm carefully scoring the loaves and I'm giving them a spray of water to create steam. It helps them to rise. I'm putting the loaf in the Dutch oven and then spraying it with a little bit more steam and then putting the lid back on. I'm going to bake each loaf for about 10 minutes at 240 degrees. Then I turn the oven down to 220 and keep on baking for 25 minutes. After 25 minutes, it's my favourite part, the mid-bake reveal, and back it goes into the oven for another 15 minutes. And the second loaf. Oh, and here's my cat Benny. He's always watching. He's always in the kitchen with me. And finally they're done. You can see they kind of spread out a little bit more than they usually would, and that's because of the extra water that I added, but I think they're going to look really nice on the inside. We have to wait a little while until they cool before we cut them, so I'm just hanging out with the pets for a minute until they're ready. Maybe you've heard me say it before, the eye is the window to the soul and the crumb is the window to the soul of your loaf of bread. It can really tell you so much about how well developed your dough was. So finally the loaf is cool enough and we can see the crumb and it's looking really nice, so beautiful and soft and golden thanks to that fresh flour I used. The bread always turns out nice even when you go a little bit rogue.